Yeah.
You see?
Even though Joe didn't remind me, I'm still doing.
You know, that's perfectly.
I thought about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe, Jang,
Yeah.
you see, are you proud of me? I thought of it.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of myself.
Why to get John a chance to, you know?
I rock, in theory. Okay, let me do this screen share thing. Okay, let me move that off. Great, so today I'm going to give you an overview of React, because this is how modern web applications are generally put together. So there are two schools of thought when it comes to web applications. There is the backend rendering, which we've taught you with EJS. So you can create all of your pages on the back end and then send them to the front end as fully formed HTML. But here's a thing that is kind of interesting. So even the slowest computer that anybody has today is about 1 million times faster than any computer anybody had 20 years ago. All right, I'm exaggerating slightly, but not that much. So there is a lot of computing power available on the client end. And so rather than spend our, and when I say our, I mean the people who run the server, that our CPU on creating the web pages and sending them to the client, how about we send the client the instructions on how to assemble a web page and the data that they need to populate it. And that is what a front-end framework like React does. So we're going to teach React, but there are a lot of libraries out there. I used to be a Vue developer, and that's kind of cool. Angular is another big one. There's tons. Svelte is growing in popularity these days. So React, though, is still pretty much the biggest one. When we were teaching jQuery, I had an interesting conversation with the other educators. And I was actually, I felt that it wasn't necessary to teach jQuery, because jQuery is what we call an imperative language. So what we're doing with jQuery when we are assembling or manipulating our HTML with jQuery is we're doing it imperatively. In other words, we're following the instructions that we're given in a jQuery string, and then we use all those instructions to assemble everything. React, on the other hand, is declarative. And what declarative means is you say what you want to have at the end of it, and the framework just assembles everything and then presents it to you. So I'll show you what I mean. Yes, it's maintained by Facebook. And if you're like me, I only open up Facebook if I really want to hate people I know. I actually really detest Facebook. But despite Facebook being a company that questionable moral authority, this is a really good framework. And it is open source, so it's not like we're unknowingly sending any data to Facebook. This is just the framework that Facebook builds or has built in order to display their applications, and they've open sourced it so anybody can use it. All right, yes, changes to the underlying data result in changes to the UI. So let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to create an app from scratch, a React app from scratch. And I'm going to do, there's going to be a lot of cutting and pasting here. That's just so I can go quickly. And of course I have to find it. Okay, so let's do that. So I've got this React from scratch folder. Okay, and let's open up my terminal. I'm just going to move this over here. Okay, I'm going to move into that folder. And I'm going to do an npm init-y. I believe everybody should remember what that does. It just creates the base of a Node project. Now, you think of Node, you think, well, it's a server-side thing. Well, yes, but we also use Node as tooling to create React and other front-end apps. So this is, we're now using Node, but we're using Node to help us to create this app. And I've got to install a bunch of things via npm, and I don't want you to go crazy when you see this list, but we actually need pretty much all of this in order for React to work. You think, wow, that's a crazy amount, and it is. So we have Webpack. Webpack allows us to use modules, which are very important for React. Babel loader, I'm going to go through these, but I'm going to go through them a little later because in actuality, they're not going to make much sense to you now, but as they come up, I'm going to just explain to you what they are and what they do. So let's create a new file, and I'm going to create let's create an index.html. We still need HTML because it's a web page. So I'm going to create the index.html, and in here, I'm just going to create okay, so this is just here, let me grow that up a bit. I shrank it a bit because I needed more screen space. Okay, so actually, let's put this in a folder called src. Or source. So I'm going to move that index into source. I'm also going to create a index.js file. Okay, and I, of course, need to link that in the HTML. So let's come back to the HTML and let's create our script tag. Okay, and I'm also going to put in one HTML element. So I'm going to make a div and give it an ID of app. And there you go. That is all the HTML that you need to get a React app up and running. Okay, so now let's actually add some React code in. So React is just JavaScript. That's all you need to remember for now. So first thing you need to do is we're going to need to import a few things. So I'm going to import, if I can spell import. So this is very much like the require syntax, except it's more modern. We're using the import syntax. This is generally how things go with React applications. And I'm going to import React from, yeah. So these are two npm files that I did the npm install on. Okay, so let's actually create the app. Okay, so let's create an app, and I'm going to make it into a function. And this function has a return. Let's fix that. Okay, and in here, I'm going to do something that might look really weird. And I know you've probably done some React exercises already, but let me write this line of code and you tell me why it's weird. Why is that line of code weird? Todd.
Because it's got just straight HTML in the return statement. There are no quotes around the HTML.
Yep. It looks like I forgot what language I was writing and have put HTML inside my JavaScript. I have not done that, but that's what it looks like. And when you're using a React app, you're going to see HTML and JavaScript sort of being used within each other willy-nilly, and it's confusing to new people. This is called JSX. I can't remember what it stands for, but I'm sure it's in one of the readings. This is a way of, or syntax for creating a short form. What is it creating a short form of? Well, this React hello world is actually the exact same. Here, let's just I'm going to call it app 2 just so I don't conflict. And it's just React dot element. What sort of element are we creating? We are creating an H1 element. Sorry. We are not passing it any props. I'll talk about props in a bit. So I'm just going to pass null. And we're going to pass in the children, which is hello world. Both of these are equivalent. This, when it's translated to JavaScript, turns into this. This is regular run-of-the-mill JavaScript. You can all understand it, where we have a React object, there is a create element method on that object, and these are arguments that we're passing that method. Okay, and now what I'm going to do is the last line of code that I need to put here is the actual rendering. So we're telling this to create elements. Now we have to connect those elements to the DOM of our HTML. So you will only ever see this once in any React app, or at least any good React app. We're going to call it React DOM.render. And we are going to, we're going to render this app component. Notice that, again, I'm using the JSX syntax. So I'm saying create the React component, or sorry, the app component, and connect it. So we have to tell it where to connect to in our HTML. Luckily, I thought ahead and I created this div with an ID of app. So how do I get a reference to a div with an ID of app using JavaScript?
Okay, element by ID.
Yeah. Get element by ID, yes. Okay, so this is, again, I'm using, this is JavaScript. I've got a React DOM object that has a render method, and I'm passing it two arguments, one of which is the connection location, and the other of which is what I'm actually connecting. Notice that this is still regular HTML, and I can put things in this HTML like standard HTML. They will be outside of the React app. So if you're thinking like I am, you realize that you can run multiple React apps within the same web page. I'm not suggesting you ever do it that way, but that is an option that is open to you. So there's still some configuration that I need to do. And so let me get that done. So I am going to create in here a new file. And it's going to be a .babelrc. Babel is a tool that we use in order to do pre-processing. It's very much like Sass, except it's for JavaScript. Okay, so babelrc, and I'm also going to create another, sorry, I think I put this in the wrong location. No, I didn't. And one more, come on, there we go. And it is webpack.config. Okay, so I have these two files, the babelrc. So I'm going to start with the easy one. The babelrc just needs a little bit of config. You're going to, over time, you're going to notice that there are a lot of files that have the same pattern, .something rc, and they're generally configuration files. So in a larger project, you may have a dozen or so configuration, depending on what you're using within your app. So in here, I just write regular JSON. So let me do that. I'm going to create here again. You don't want to see me type if I can copy and paste. So let me just add this. No, I did the wrong thing. Hold on. Let's do that again. That's weird. I'll just type it anyways. Resets. Luckily, the VS Code's great and it gives me hints about what I need to put in. So I'm just going to put in at babel/preset-react. And I am going to put in trailing comma. Yes, I know. Plugins, and I am going to add Let's see if I can do this. Darn Medium. Okay. I have a link to the thing I'm copying off of in the class notes. And it is so this is just how I am configuring, no typos. Babel. Babel is a tool, as I mentioned, that we do pre-processing with. Let me actually show you. Babel is really cool. And on their page, or on Babel, they have this REPL, or what we call REPL. And you can type JSX in the left, and on the right, it will tell you what the output of that is. So this is what Babel is doing behind the scenes. When I say return hello world inside a div, it does the return. These are just comments, regular JavaScript comments. They're for the build process, which is outside of the scope of this. You don't have to worry about it right now. It's just a regular comment, so you can safely ignore it. So we're returning React.create element, a div. We're not passing it anything except the children of a string hello world. Okay, so that's babeljs.io. It's pretty fun. Okay, so we've done that, and now I want to configure the, let's see if I can do this. What did I do wrong? Require invalid character. Oh, it's put in some lovely spaces where it doesn't need them. Why is it saying invalid character? It doesn't like my my double quotes. Double quotes are completely legit. All right, so all of this, all right, let's make it happy and change all of, oh, right. This is one of those things where it looks like double quotes, they're not. So let me just choose all of these and replace it with that. And hold on. So let's just backspace and do that. And the end. Backspace. There we go. And let's fix that. Great, no errors, perfect. So this is regular JavaScript. Webpack is, as I mentioned earlier, it is the part of or a JavaScript tool that allows us to use modules. And modules are when we're using these import, and later you'll see export statements. All right, so if I have done everything correctly, I should be able to run this app. So let's give it a go here. I'm just going to add the this script here, and we'll just call it start. And the command I want to run is going to be this. No, not that. Oh. Here, once again, I will type it. Webpack serve config is going to be webpack.config.js. All right. So if I've made no errors, you know what I didn't ever do? I didn't actually hit enter down here. So let me do that now. There we go. And it'll give me time to have a sip of coffee. It's as if I planned it that way. Who am I kidding? I don't plan things.
John, I noticed it was React-do and not React DOM. It might have been just a copy paste.
Okay, sorry. Oh yeah, you're right. React.dom. Let's npm I. No, thank you for pointing that out. There we go. It looks like it's all working. Let's see if my app actually renders. npm run start. Invalid configuration that does not match the API schema. Configuration mode should be one of these. I hate it when, all right, mode. Oh, that's right. I goofed. I accidentally left that in. I love error messages that tell you exactly what you did wrong, which is good because I do things wrong a lot. All right. It has one error. Error in main, can't resolve Babel loader. Ah, okay. It's probably, again, one of those things. So npm I, actually, hold on. I should have realized this earlier. Yeah. No, it should work. Can't resolve Babel, oh, with a space. All right, just npm I Babel dash loader. See what I get for copy and pasting. Babel loader. No matching version found. A package version that doesn't exist. Okay, so when you have problems like this, you delete your node modules file and you delete your package.json. There we go. And then you just do the npm I again. It probably didn't like it that I mucked everything up. All right. I have an error and I don't have time to troubleshoot it. However, I have successfully done this demo in the past. And there's an easier way to do this. So despite me making all of these files, I don't really need to do that in order to create React app. Because if you did have to do that every time you created a React app, you would probably shoot somebody, maybe me, and I don't want that to happen. So let's skip away from this error. I'm sure I could troubleshoot it given time, but I don't want to waste any more time on that. The next thing that I want to show you is the easy way to create a React app. So let's go into this folder. Okay, so I'm in the Create React App folder. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to run npx. npx is part of the npm tool. What npx does is it actually looks to see what the latest version of the tool that you're asking for is and it immediately downloads it. So we're going to do a Create React App. And we have to give it a name. So I'm going to give it the name of Lucy. All right, that's a poor name for an app. So Rainbow Dash. That's a great name for an app. Okay. What? It doesn't like my underscore? Okay, hold on. See what happens. No. Can not contain capital letters. Okay, there we go. Just say Rainbow Dash, one word, like that. So what this is doing is everything I did before, except it's not making any typos. It's creating the base of a React app that we can then go in and make changes to. So give it a minute or so. Or 2 or 3. No, it shouldn't take very long. It also, I don't know if you noticed, but it also creates an uninitialized Git repository so that you don't have to do that one line of code. There we go. So let's go into Rainbow Dash and let's do the npm start. And opened up over here, and let's pull it over. All right, it's an app. So don't get too excited by all of this cool animation. Let me show you what the actual code for that is. That is, so you'll notice that this looks very similar to the app that I set up. If I go into the SRC folder, I can look at this app.js. And inside the app.js is all of the code that you see running. So let's actually look at this in a bit more detail. So the first thing you see here is this index.js. This looks very similar to the index.js that I created. It's added a few more things, but let me get rid of that. We don't need it. It's pulling in some CSS. We'll leave that there. And it's importing this app, which is kind of interesting. So let me also get rid of this and this. React strict mode basically helps you with errors, but again, you don't really need it. And I also got rid of the import for that, so got rid of that. And there we go. That's almost identical. They call it root rather than app, but it doesn't really matter what the idea is. This is pretty much the same thing I had, except that we're importing app. So what is this file that we're importing? This is a component. So you could think of a component like a piece of Lego. Your app is made up of lots of little pieces of Lego or components that are connected together. Here we have some JSX that is being returned, and it's being returned and sent. It's being exported. You'll notice at the bottom, we're exporting this default. So we import the logo, we import the CSS, And we're using the logo here. So notice the source equals logo. Also notice that it is within curlies as well. So let me go over this component quickly. Class name, what's class name? In regular HTML, we use the word class, but we can't use the word class inside JSX. Can somebody tell me why?
You would confuse JavaScript, the class keyword.
Yep. You cannot use the, you can't use words, reserved words, they're called, for your own thing. So since class is a reserved word in JavaScript, they just renamed class to class name. That's all it is. So this is just a regular class name. And if I go to the CSS, there's nothing special about the CSS. This is the same CSS that you know, except they've put in some animations, but we don't really need that animation. Let me just save this. I'm just going to put this back to the way it was. Okay. So that's one difference there. Notice that a pair of curlies are here, or braces. In React, a pair of braces means take what's inside of here and tell us, or this is regular JavaScript. So what we're doing is we're passing in logo, which we're importing. The logo is a variable. That's all it is. It's a variable like any other. So we're passing in the variable logo into source here. Then that's it. And then we're taking the whole thing and we're exporting it. Okay, we're exporting it, and in index.js, we're importing it. So right now we've got some very boring Lego. We only have 2 pieces of Lego here, and that's not exactly what we want. If we only needed 2 pieces of Lego, why not we just create this page in regular HTML? Components give a lot of power to an app. So let me come back here to this app.js, and what I'm going to do here, let me show you this. This is pretty cool. So if I say learn John, notice that I don't have to reload the page. Here, let's just do that. And I'm going to close that. You don't need to reload the page in order. So this is what this is part of why we love React so much. You don't have to reload things. You just make changes, and as you make changes, they just get translated immediately into the window that we're working on. All right, so let's create a, let's create something. I'm going to get rid of this because while it's exciting, it's not really super necessary. Oh, you know what I like doing? I like keeping this. I'm just reusing the CSS here. So I'm going to get rid of everything in here. So now I've just got a regular app. I like that it's got a different background. So okay, so let's add something. Let's add our own new component. We're going to create a component, and we're going to make it a hello component. So let me do that. All right, and We're going to call it hello. And I'm going to pass it an attribute, just like you can pass an attribute to any particular HTML element. And I'm going to pass it a name of class. Okay. So let me intentionally this time make an error. So because it's JavaScript, it's not as tolerant as HTML is to errors. So if you make a change that it is not, or it's not valid JSX, it will give you an error. Now, the good news is this error actually tells you exactly where the problem is and usually how to fix it. So let me fix that. The error that I have here is that I have not closed the hello element. So I can either put a /hello or just the slash in front of the closing bracket, angle bracket there. Okay, it's still going to give me an error because it doesn't know what hello is. So let's create a hello component. So let me just come here. I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it hello.js. So one thing I like to do, this is personal preference, is call it JSX. There, you can call it either .js or .jsx. That's up to you. I like .jsx because it gives hints to VS Code and sort of allows auto completions better than if I just called it .js. So let's come in here. And here's where I'm going to cheat. So I have some snippets because creating a component, you do this a lot in creating React. So I have this component called RFCE. And there we go. So this just creates, just like Bang or Bang tab creates the skeleton of an HTML file, RFCE tab creates the skeleton of a basic React component. So we've got this component here. Let's, all right. This is a component. It does everything that a component wants. So all we need to do is come back to our app.js. It's still not happy because it doesn't know what hello is. So let's import it. And I have to give it a path, which is going to be / not jello. Oh, how cool is that, right? This is pretty awesome. So we now have created our own component. But what does this do for us? Well, we can pass down information to it. So here I'm saying we're passing this attribute called name, and we're calling it, we're saying that the value of that is class. Okay, just delete that because I'm not using it. So let's go into the hello component and make use of that. So I'm back here. So how do I pull that in? This is what's called within React a prop. So let me come over here. When we create a React component, we are automatically, or not automatically, we're passing it an object. The object is called props. So let me put it here. It is, it's passed to the component. And I can actually come over here now, put in a pair of braces. So React knows that whatever I put in here is a JavaScript expression. So I'm going to say props.name. Hello class. So I had successfully passed down information from a parent to a child, and that's pretty cool. I can reuse this component. So let's go back into the parent and let's create another. We're going to use the same one. And the random student that I see in front of me is Allison. So you win the lottery. There we go. So I'm reusing the same component and yes, I've only got a few lines of HTML in here, but you can imagine, what if instead of passing in a string like that, I want to pass in more information? So that actually brings up, how do we make the data within our React app reactive or dynamic, I should say? So we can do that. We can actually do something called setting the state. So state, first of all, lives in a component. It must be a component. It might be its own component that only has state in it. But let me put this, I'm going to put the state here in the app. So let's do that. So I'm going to say const, we'll say student, comma, set student equals use state. And I'm going to pass it. Okay, so a few things here. It doesn't know what use state is, so I have to import it. So I'm going to import this actually from React. So I'm going to import oh, I love it when it just auto-completes for me. So now I have a student here. I've got a piece of state, some data that is in my app, okay? So how do I put this information in here? So, Jang, can you explain to me what is happening here?
Some kind of, it's a syntax error.
No, it's not. Well, it's just giving an error because I'm not using it.
Okay.
I am destructuring.
Destructure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm destructuring the results of use state. So use state is a function or a method. I'm passing it a string. That's the initial state. And I get out of it an object, and that object has a property called student and another property called set student. Student is equal to either this or whatever we change it to. And set student is a function that allows us to change that. So let me put in another hello. So when I hit save, what did I do wrong? Student, okay. This is interesting. So I've passed in the student. The student should be Gottfried. So why is this not working? I love errors. So what I'm going to do is quickly troubleshoot. And I'm going to do that by coming back to hello. And I'm going to say, save that. And it's saying that the third name is undefined. So that's telling me that student here and student here.
So, John,
Yes.
I'm just confused where the student and set student is being declared. Like use state always lives in React. It's always imported from there, but don't you have to, like, where is that? Does it always have this
I'm
object in there?
creating these.
Oh, okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
student and set student are, I've decided to call these variables student and set student. Use state got, hold on. Oh, I'm an idiot. It is not an object. It is an array. So that is my fault. Okay, there we go. And if I come back here, yes, there we go. Gottfried, you exist. Well, you knew that, but you exist in my app. Okay, so I've got, pun not intended, I have Gottfried in my app. So Gottfried is a piece of data. JavaScript is about manipulating data. How do I manipulate that string? That is an excellent question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this second variable out of this, and I'm going to also pass this down to student, okay? So, or better yet, actually, let's create a new component. Yeah, let's create a new component. We're going to call this component change, has to be capitalized. That's one of the rules of JSX. Student. And we're going to do that. And I'm also going to pass in a set student. So I'm using a new keyboard, which is why I can't type worse than normal today. So I've got set student, and it's going to, I'm going to set it equal to set student. So I've created a prop. That name of the prop is set student. I've set the value of it to the value of this. It's a function called set student. So I'm basically just passing the set student down as a prop. You can pass functions as props. All right, let's create a change student component. Okay, so I'm going to do the import first. Student from okay, and I'm also going to call that JS, and one of the and then I'm going to come in here and create a new file, call it change student .jsx. All right. Super, and I'm going to use my short form RFCE here. And we've got this change student. Okay, and I'm going to pass in the props. All right. So I'm going to make this, I'm going to run this differently. So instead of just passing in the string change student, I want to have a way of updating student. So updating sounds like an input to me. Okay. So let's do that. Let's create an input element. Type of text is fine. We're going to give it a name equals give it a name of student. All right, yep, let's pass through. Okay, so I need to, here, let's just make this a little nicer. Okay. Oh, another trick. Again, you always must have return a single element. So if I try to add another div here, like this, and we'll say, well, first of all, it's giving me red underlines all over the place. It's telling me don't do it that way. And it actually tells you in here, did you want a JSX fragment? Wow, they're getting even better with their errors. So let me show you what I can do here. I could take this div and just call it nothing. So I've got an open and close tag with no name in it. And it has no name because I don't want it to render. If I put div, it will render on the page. And old-timey React apps have a million divs in them. But obviously that's just not needed. Most of those divs are just encompassing their own components. So I'm using what's called a fragment and passing in this input. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is add a event handler here. So I'm going to add the onChange. And what am I going to pass for the onChange? I'm going to props dot set notice that I'm passing a reference to the function. I'm not invoking the function yet. This is only going to get invoked when I run this. Now, this will probably, let's do that again. It is not happy with me. And let's have a look at the errors. And I think I know why. So one of the things you will find is that the error messages from React are very good. So objects are not valid as a React child. Okay, so found object with keys. What did I do? So I passed in. So it's passing props. Oh, yes, I know what's happening here. So I need to actually pass in the value of this, right? So let's do this. I'm going to turn this into an anonymous function, which will allow me to pass it a value, and the value is going to be this dot .net. Let's see if this works. Right, so no, that's not going to work. So this is, let me make this easier. I'm just going to change this from text to a button for now, because forms are a little more difficult. And instead, in passing that, I'm just going to hard code Todd. Okay, so let's go back here. I've got a button. Let me give the button a name. We'll call it change to Todd. Oh, sorry, it's not that, it is input. What did I do? Class name on change the student to Todd. Okay.
Should it be on click?
On click, thank you. Notice that rather than all lowercase, which is what you're used to, this is camel cased, and that is a React thing. And ooh, another error. What does it say? It says input is a void element tag and must neither have, all right, screw that. I'm just going to turn it into a button element. There we go. There we go. Everything's back to normal. So now when I click on the button, goes hello Todd. Let's think about how I change that. Where does the state live? Does it live in this component, the change student component? No, Todd doesn't think so. Does it exist in this hello component? No. It exists in the only component I have left, which is this app.js. So the data lives here. So I am passing data down to children as props, and the children are passing information back up to the parent using a function. So the function here is the set student function, but it could be a function that I create myself. Let me show you that. Let me just create a function here. I've got to figure out why I am doing that. Okay. There we go. So I now have created this super simple function. So let's create, here, let's just pass it down to change student. So we're going to do, say, boo equals, say, boo. Okay. So now I'm passing, say, boo down again to the same change student. I can come back up here and let's create another button. And we'll call it, and once again, we're going to do on click. And we're going to do props dot save boo. So now, and let's just come over here. I'm just going to clear that. And now when I click on eq, so once again, There's no data associated, or no dynamic data at least associated with Cebu. However, I am doing something in a parent component and I'm controlling it from the child component. Okay. Let's take a break. Let's come back at 1/4. Is everybody cool with that? Okay. Thanks.
Hey, John.
Yeah,
Hey, sorry to bother you. I just thought maybe I would ask now because I know we're on a tight timeline, but I'm a
yeah,
little
sure.
bit
Go
lost.
for it. Go for it.
Totally lost.
You're lost.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. Number
yeah.
one, this question, I've just been curious. How does it know? Like, how does React know that we're on port 3000? Like, where does that?
Okay, that is where it is set up in, this is part of this React scripts.
Okay,
so this
it's kind of like
is
just nested in there somewhere.
yeah, it's happening behind the scenes. It finds an open port, usually 3000. If you're using 3000, you use 3001.
Can you specify that anywhere, or does it
I'm pretty sure you can. I've never
okay, because
needed
I was like,
to.
yeah, I was looking all over because I started in on some of the Compass stuff, but I was like, and I was looking through all the files. I was like, how does it know that like what if I put in localhost like 8000? Like, would it still, would this React thing?
Here, create React. Port. How to specify a port. There we go. Oh, that's how you do it. You put the port equals whatever in front of this.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. But it's default, it's just 3000.
Yes, that is the default for create React app. Usually that's fine.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Okay, I have 2 more questions.
Go for it.
I'm really confused about props and state. So what is it?
That's
What is
a big
prop
one
mean?
for students. Props. All right, props is information that you pass from a parent to a child. Okay, so in the case of our app, I have here, let's just go to app, right? So the parent of these 3 children, or 4 children, I should say, is app. So
Parent is the app. So, and that's another question. Is app, like when we're calling that into our index, our HTML file, is app the same as root?
No. So the name of this component is app. There's nothing special about the name app. It's just convention. We all call it app. The root that you hear about is actually in this index.html is this root. It is connecting the component called app to the DOM component in the HTML with the ID of root.
Okay, how does it know where to connect? So root is essentially just the name for like its DOM. So it's full structure.
Again, there's nothing special about the name root here. You can call it whatever as long as you're consistent. But we call it root because it's the root or the very end of our React app.
Okay, next question. So this, where does this, the index HTML, where does it know, how does it know to link up to the app component, which is our app?
The
Where is that
index
coming in?
HTML doesn't know
Okay.
anything. Index HTML is dumb. It has no
Cool.
logic. It does, there is, and it's not here because create React app is a little weird, but it is injecting the JavaScript. So imagine when I did here in this React from scratch example, when I put in here, this script source equals index.js, this is the same sort of thing. So that's where we're getting the JavaScript into it. So once it's there, it executes, and then it knows to create the rest of the app. So the first thing it does is it looks for an document.get element by ID root. Okay, where is that? That's right there. Okay, what do you want me to do to it? You want me to connect this piece of HTML to it? Okay, I'll do that.
How does it know? So like back to our file, how does it know to connect to app.js?
So app.js is linked through from index.
Oh,
Index is the
it's here.
base. Everything.
Okay, I see that there. Okay,
This
cool.
is the whole app right here. We're importing app, and then we can import things into app. Index doesn't need to know about that. All index needs to know is I have this app component that I'm getting from this import, and I get to connect it somewhere.
Now, where here is it? So here it should also link to our index HTML file, no?
No, JavaScript doesn't link to HTML. It's the other way around.
Okay.
HTML would have, now again,
Which is the root
here,
thing
but
there.
it's injected. So if we actually here, let's come back here. And if I do an inspect. No, these are great questions, so I don't mind spending some time on them. Okay, so here you see this div with an ID of root.
Yeah.
Right. And so it is putting, no, that's not it. You just have to trust me that the JavaScript is in here somewhere. I don't know exactly where, but you could see that this is all the HTML that I've written, right? Now, I call this hello, but all that is a function to turn what I've written into a valid HTML. So this is why you see div with hello class in it.
Yes, so that I understand. I guess I'm just curious as to how this is all being injected into the root of that index.html page. Like how does it know to find that?
All right.
So I see
Document.get
that
element by ID. So it's saying this function is taking this component right here, this app, and it's saying render. So run the JavaScript in here. And then take the results of that and connect it to the element with the ID of root.
So then it just knows that ID of root is like found in the HTML page.
Because you're saying look for it. If I
so
called
it's just
it something
scouring
else,
the files.
it'll crash.
Okay.
And by scouring the files, this is regular DOM manipulation. You can ask to manipulate or find any element on any HTML page with JavaScript with a document dot something.
I guess usually I'm used to like us always importing the file, or there's always usually there's a direct link to that path. Whereas this is just like looking for this one little tag of root. Okay, that's okay. Okay, awesome. It's coming a little bit more clear, I mean, than it was.
So if if I wrote outside of React, if I just did a document dot here, actually, let's do this. I am going to come over here. So once again, I'm going to inspect. So I have this ID of root. Great. So if I come over to my console, so I'm going to say const root equals document dot get element by ID, and I'm going to say root. Okay, so look for something, no, not that. Look for something on the page called root and assign it to this variable. Okay, so let's hit enter. And if I say root, hey, it knows what I mean. Okay, so how do I change the contents of root? I say root dot inner HTML. If I could spell, I'm just going to set it equal to this is exactly what React is doing behind the scenes.
Okay, now the other question. So I got props, but then there was what was the other?
State.
State, yes.
State is dynamic data. Props is something that the parent knows, but the parent's got to know it from somewhere. Now, it can know it from two places. It can know it from props that its parent sent it, just sort of like, you know, you inherit things from your parents, they inherited the same thing from their parents, and so on. Or you can set state. And state is basically what we're calling the data in the component. So there are two types of components. See, this is a good segue, Sean, so thank you. There are two types of components. There are controlled components, which are components very much like this one. This is a controlled component. It is dumb. It is controlled by its parent. And when I say dumb, I mean it doesn't know anything itself other than what its parent tells it. So the parent sends the props in, and then it just passes that to where it needs to go. Oh, hey, I have this props object. There is a property called name on it. Hey, there's somewhere for me to insert it. I'm going to insert it. Does it have its own state? No. State should only live in one place, because otherwise you may have state that conflicts with each other. So in this case, this is an uncontrolled component. So it's the root. Nothing is controlling it. It is controlling other components. So it's controlling all of these components. It is telling them everything they need to know about the universe, which in the case of hello is a name, passing in a name. This is the state here. I'm using, there are old ways of doing this, but this is the easiest, I think. So we have the student, which is a variable name. It is also a piece of state. The way React works is it looks at everything that's within state. So if I put something outside of state, okay, I could still pass this down here. So instead of class, I'm going to say and I'm going to put that in curlies. And it doesn't have, it shouldn't be capitalized. There we go. So now when I run this, let's refresh this. There we go. Hello, Joe. However, because it's outside of state, React isn't looking at it. React reacts to changes in state. So in state is the data, and when that changes, it re-renders all of the children that the state has changed in, or the data has changed in. So when I here in this change student component, it says hello Gottfried, I change it to Todd. Also look, when I change it to Todd, the entire app re-renders. I know this because this console.log statement that I put in the hello right here, right here, that is firing off when I change from Todd to Gottfried. Now, this is also interesting. Notice I'm clicking on here again. The same function is firing, but it's not re-rendering the app. And that's because React is smart enough to know that because no data has actually changed in state, nothing needs to be re-rendered. So the function is firing, but because the state is stayed the same, it is not making any changes to it. State and props are the key to understanding React. So once you master that, and it's not that hard, it's going to click. The light bulb will go off, I promise, Sean. Once you understand how props, it's data flow, right? We're flowing data from the parent to the child. The child can change data in the parent only through a function. So let's
say that last part again.
So
A
the
child
child can
only-
change the data in a parent, but it must be through a function call. The function originates in the parent. So let's talk a little bit about closures. We all remember what closures are? In JavaScript, a closure is a function or series of functions and variables that live in a particular, within a pair of braces, basically. If you see a pair of braces, that's going to be a closure. So what this means is that even if I create in here, let's create in this child component, I'm going to create a variable and just set it to hello. All right. So where can this variable be accessed from? Let's go back up to app. Can app see what the value of that variable is? Anybody?
No,
No, because
Nope.
it's a parent.
Yeah, because the parent never knows what the children are up to. This is information that, and that's true in real life as well, that is information that exists within a child. The child may need to know it for some reason. The parent doesn't need to know it. The parent is only aware of what it's sending to the child and when the child calls a function that it passed to it. So I passed set student to this change student. So I know that when set student is called, I can access it from the change student that has access to it because I passed it in as a prop. So the props does exist within the scope of the child. So it can access that. And when it fires, it then sends the information. Remember, a function, the value of a function is its return. So when we're firing this here, when we're firing set student, we are returning the value of Todd. There is no difference between props.set student Todd and the actual string Todd from here. So it knows I have a student. The only time I change the student is when set student is run. When it is run, I will change the value of student to whatever is passed to me in set student.
Hey, John, I have a question. Like in set student function, where are we declaring that function which defines when if
set student is the output of use state. So use state, Gottfried, outputs a, let's actually do this. What is the return value of use state? And we'll just say, in this case, Jang. Okay, so I'm going to run use state Jang and then console.log the value. And here is the value. It's returning an array with 2 values in it. The first one is the string Jang. The second one is a function, here called the dispatch action. And this dispatch action is a method that allows me to change the value of Jang. Now here, this has to be an array because at index 0 is your name, Jang. So therefore, Jang is a student. The dispatch action is at index 1, which I'm calling set student. Cool.
So yeah, so use state is basically is a function within React, which we're using.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, we're pulling in use state from the React library. This is called a hook. You may have heard of React hooks before. There are a lot of different hooks. I'm just going to talk about this one today because I've given you a lot and I don't want your heads to explode. Last time I taught React, what I just went over was 3 different lectures. So yes, this is jam-packed. Okay, what else do I need to talk about? We spoke about control components, uncontrolled components. We spoke about event handlers. We spoke about props. Children, props.children. Okay, this is another interesting thing. So there is a special prop that exists. And the special prop is what we call the children. So I'm going to take, let's create a completely brand new component. So new file, and we'll call it by.jsx. Because I got a hello. All right, and our FCE tab. By the way, in order to get RFCE to work yourselves, there is a plugin or a extension, and it is called ES. What is it? This one, ES7 plus React Redux, React Native Snippets. This is the one I installed, told to me by the person who taught me React from my parent, my React parent, not my real parent. My real parent toasters was the level that they could understand. Okay, so, but that's a bit of an aside. So let's go back to this by, okay? So here we've got this by, and what I want to do is I want to return, again, I'm going to pass in props, and I'm going to actually say, I want to render props dot children, and I need to put that in a pair of braces, and we'll just make it obvious. Okay, so this is the entire by component. It's super easy. We're pulling in the props from its parent. I've not connected it to its parent yet, but when it does, it will receive some props. There'll be a prop called children, and it will render that next to so long. All right, so let's go back into app and let's pull that in. You will note over time that you will get a lot of import statements in your components, and that's just a fact of life. So we're going to bring in by from by. There we go. Notice, by the way, I'm not putting .js or .jsx. It knows that it's going to be JavaScript, so you don't have to worry about it. All right, so let's actually call this. All right, so in here, all I need to do is call by. Now, let's see if this works. I think I'm going to get an error, but we'll see in a moment. And who haven't I chosen yet? Abby, I haven't chosen you yet. And, oh, and I gotta close that. All right, and there we go. So long, Abby. So I've created a prop called children, but you'll notice something about all these elements that I'm creating. They kind of look like HTML, but I don't have anything sort of like, it's not surrounding anything. They're all singular tags. So what I can actually do is get rid of this internal bit here. And no, not that. Say by. And in theory, does the same thing. So here I have a string called Abby that I'm passing down. But let's say I want to pass something other than a string. Let's say I want to pass in a p tag. And inside that p tag, I have Abby. And you know what, instead of p, let's change it to an h2, just so it's obvious. There we go. So it's obvious. So now I've passed in an h2. But remember, while this looks like HTML, it's not. It's a React function. React.create element h2 contents Abby, or children, I should say, of Abby. What is the child of by? By is React.create element. The default is div, so it's creating a div. And then it's putting the children in, which is the results of this, which is an h2 with Abby in it. So React.create element is happening at multiple levels here. So this is kind of cool. But data is normally sent to us not in like ones and one or nothing, right? Normally we get a list. So let's create another piece of state, or you know what, I'm just going to call it a regular because I don't want to change it for now. So const list. And I'm going to pass in an array. And the array is going to have, I've used almost everybody. Then, you deserve capitalization, Van. And Brianna. Yep. It's one of those I can't remember if it's one or two N's. Nico, I haven't used you yet today. Okay. All right, I've used everybody. It's a banner day for me now. Okay, so now I have this piece of data. I'm not putting it in state because state is just for data that's going to change later. I could put it into state, but I've decided in this case not to. So how do I render the list of students? If I come down here and add just a, I don't know, div, and with it, no, that's right. This is why it's not working. Div, and if I put in list of students, it's going to crash. It's going to crash A because I didn't close that brace. Okay, so it's rendering it like this, but that's not the way I want. Let's say I want to put all of these names into different components. So, ooh, here's what I'm going to do. This is going to be awesome. Okay. So I'm not going to do it this way, even though it kind of works, but not really, not the way I want to. I'm going to actually create a, now remember, I'm in JavaScript, right? So I have access to all of the JavaScript tools that are available to me. So let me show you. So I'm going to say, let's create a JavaScript expression, and I'm going to say list of students dot map. Okay, and then because list of students is an array, map is a valid array method. So I'm going to say for each student, I want you to render hello. Actually, no, we'll do a render name. And okay, let's have a look. It didn't crash. Hello, Van. Hello, Brianna. Hello, Nico. So what I've done is I've rendered this array as a list. Now there is a small problem, and you should see it. There we go. This error here. Warning: each child in a list should have a unique key prop. So React likes to know, needs some way to differentiate between items in a list. So you need to actually add a prop called key when you are doing a list like this. So let me come back to here. And all I'm going to do is just put in a key. The key has to be unique, but luckily all of the names are unique. So I'll just put, sorry, not that. There we go. The names are unique and that error, let's just do that. The error goes away. So that's how you render a list. Okay. Now this is kind of fun. Let's go to the hello component again. Let me see, what else do I, props.children, state, declarative, blah, 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 blah. I think I've covered everything I've wanted to cover. And I'm going to stop teaching right now because your heads are full. My head's full and I know what I'm doing in theory. So you have the next 13 minutes to ask me anything about React and I will answer for you.
John, me again.
Sean, I am, so some people get it right away, Sean, other people don't. And that's fine.
Totally not getting it.
That is okay. One day you will. That's my promise.
Yeah, I feel like so far I've this is just, I think it's just a lot of information coming super fast. So it's just taking me a little bit to absorb it. So if you go back to the, gosh, I even forget which file, go back to the app.js. So when I know like parents and children in HTML, other structures. So like in this scenario, the div with the class name app header, that's the parent of all the guys. So it kind of works the same as HTML,
that is
right?
the parent.
So all the children are inside.
Yeah. The name.
Okay. I just didn't know if that was different.
Yeah, no, it's fine. All of the, so this is a parent with a lot of children, right? So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a list of student of 3 more. Right. So all of those count as direct children, but I could go into hello and then pull in something else. So I can have a grandchild of the app. The app doesn't need to know. Matter of fact, let's do that very quickly. Let's create a new component. I'm just going to call this greet.jsx. Okay, and FCE, just going to make it super dumb. We're going to have it return. I'm going to just delete that. So we're just going to have it return the string greet. I have to put it within this. This is a React fragment, but there's no reason I can't just return a string. So let's go back to hello. And what I'm going to do, I still have to import it. Okay, so instead of hello now, I'm going to remove hello and change that over for actually, no, I need to do it like this. And if I come back here, now all the hellos say greet. Does app know about greet? No. It knows nothing about greet because if I come over to app, I'm not importing it. It knows nothing about it. Does it need to know about it? No, it does not need to know about it. Because that's what the hello is importing greet. What does greet do? Just puts a string. So we are saying add a string in hello with the output of greet. The output of greet is greet. I still don't see the light bulb, Sean, but that's okay.
No, I got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right, so now I have a grandchild of app, but the child of app doesn't tell its parent that it has children.
Got
It
it.
doesn't need
Yep.
to know.
Perfect. I think it's just also it's wrapping my head around props and state.
Yeah, props and
that's
state.
my big like source of confusion here.
Props
and also
and state.
sometimes, yeah,
Yeah,
how things are linking up.
that's fine. So remember, props are how parents pass information. State is the dynamic data that lives within the app. Because if we're not making a dynamic, an app with dynamic data, then we may as well just create a regular HTML site. But with React, we want to be able to manipulate data. And so therefore, we put the data we want to manipulate in the state.
So John, question, does React make jQuery not really, it's like its own thing? Like, because here you're like putting the state right in with React, right?
So yes, React is telling you what is going to appear. jQuery is instructions on what to do. So it's a little bit different. So React is declarative. I'm going to show you, what am I going to show you? I'm going to show you a div with whatever the output of greet is and whatever props.name is. That is declarative. Whereas with jQuery, if you wanted to create this, you would do something like $.create. It's been a while since I've created stuff with jQuery. In general, industry uses, or at least the newer companies that don't have legacy software to deal with, use a framework like React.
Thank you. I took up all the question time. I'm sorry.
You're asking the questions that I'm sure are at least somewhere in the heads of almost everybody here. Don't worry about it. Anyone else?
Yeah, John, can you show change student
Yeah, sure.
folder file?
Yeah.
Component. Yeah. So so on one end, we are using anonymous function. Is that the reason because we are passing an argument? Is that the reason?
Yes, I have to. So I can't just pass this without. If I do this, it's going to run props.setStudent immediately, and that's not necessarily what I want it to do. I want it to, only when I click it, run this.
Like a callback.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be anonymous. I can create a function up here and just pass that function down. But this one's super short. In general, if you are doing something like this and it takes more than one line of JavaScript, create a function and then pass the function down. Best class ever. Great questions, everyone.
So John,
Yes.
on the page with the state, the app.js.
Yeah.
So you have some data living outside of the state.
Yeah.
And so that would just not be dynamic data.
That's right. I can't change this data inside the app. If I wanted this to be data that could change, I'd have to create another state for it, another use state, and put it in there. I have other options, but in terms of basic React, that's how I would do it.
Okay. And then so you would have multiple use states.
Yep.
Okay. And you would be passing in like the database into there?
Or at least the output of a database. You're not going to directly connect the database, but maybe a table or maybe the results of a query into React here.
Okay, and every use state, you're using those two, is it, would it be accurate to think of student and set student as like a getter and a setter in like a class? Do they kind of perform the same thing?
That's pretty close. I would say it's a getter and a setter. It's definitely that pattern, especially with the word set in the name.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's all I need to ask.
It's okay. So you're going to have questions. Absolutely. Later on. My recommendation is ask Jang because he knows everything. My second, use the mentors. Use them a lot this week because React, especially at the very beginning, is a lot to get your head around. So please Slack me, and I can't answer you in real time because I have a day job, but I will answer you if you have questions that you hopefully are quick and easy. Once again, this video is going to go up, and also there's going to be all my code in GitHub. Okay. If you're feeling lost right now, don't sweat it. Half of the students here are also lost along with you. If at least the ratio stays similar to other classes I've taught in the past. Maybe everybody gets it. Maybe Sean's lying to us and he completely understands it.
Eventually, but probably like 4 weeks from now.
No, not 4 weeks. Not 4 weeks.
Hopefully sooner.
You will know it. You will know it by the end of the week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I like that positive thinking.
So if the way I've taught it to you doesn't make sense, or you want to have a different take on it, there are tons of videos on YouTube. Watch different people teach this. So the way I learned React initially was I bought a course called React for Beginners by Wes Boss. I think it's like $60 with 8 hours of, yeah, I know you've just spent a lot of money on a boot camp, but sometimes you need extra material, and that is a very good course. Everything I learned about React, well, not everything, but at least enough that I understood it, I got from that course. Okay. All right, my friends, while I'd love to stay in chat, I got to go back. So enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll have more React on the schedule for next week. So you have to understand all the React I taught this week before next week. Don't worry, Sean, you'll be fine.
I have faith.
I have faith.
I have faith.
All right, my friends, I'll post everything in the regular place.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John.
thank you.